Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the incredibly high-stakes world of property redevelopment. If you're in a housing society looking to rebuild, you know exactly how stressful this process gets. To figure out how these massive decisions actually happen and where they sometimes completely miss the mark, we're using a real, comprehensive feasibility report as our main case study today. We're looking at the Kalash Udyan redevelopment in Koper, put together by Atsul Patel Architects. We're going to unpack the data, look at what's on the table, and most crucially, uncover what's suspiciously missing.
Before we get tangled up in the heavy numbers and legal structures, take a second to read this quote. Redevelopment is not just the process of reconstructing a building. It is the process of protecting the future of every resident. And honestly, that hits the nail on the head. This isn't just about pouring concrete. We're talking about safeguarding the life savings and future security of hundreds of families. Making fully informed decisions here isn't just a best practice, it's absolutely mandatory.
Okay, let's dive into this. Just look at the sheer, massive scale of this proposed layout plan for Kalash Udyan. We're talking about a plot area of nearly 16,500 square meters. It's this huge, multi-building footprint with extensive recreational open spaces and some serious infrastructural demands. When you're dealing with a canvas this large, in a prime urban node, the stakes are literally astronomical. There is zero room for error here.
Let's ground ourselves with some hard facts right from the society's existing details. Built back in 1993, this property currently houses 360 residential tenements and 10 commercial ones. So that's 370 separate families and businesses. A project of this magnitude, it requires a bulletproof financial and structural strategy for sure. Every single choice the committee makes is going to impact the daily lives of nearly 400 households.
Now, consider this absolutely staggering figure, 94.60 crore rupees. According to the feasibility report, this is the estimated cost of rent alone for the existing members during a 4-year construction period. Let that sink in for a second. Before a single new brick is even laid, the financial clock is already ticking to the tune of nearly 100 crores just to keep the current residents housed. This just proves how financially heavy and sensitive this whole thing is. A delay here could be catastrophic.
Section 1. A binary choice, developer versus self-redevelopment.
So the report basically hands the residents two paths, a developer-based model or a self-redevelopment model. But look closely at the comparison chart from the source material. For the developer route, it explicitly warns that timelines depend entirely on the builder, carrying massive risks of underperformance and severe transparency issues. On the flip side, for self-redevelopment, it warns of internal mistrust, constant conflicts over agreement terms, and crazy execution delays because you have multiple decision-makers. I mean, if you've ever sat through a housing society meeting, you know exactly the kind of internal chaos they're talking about. Both options come with huge trust and timeline risks.
Think about what this actually means for the residents. They're basically being asked to pick the lesser of two evils. Either you hand over total control to a third-party developer and just pray they don't default, or you take on the monumental, highly technical burden of self-redeveloping a 16,000 square meter plot and risk total internal chaos. These binary choices leave the residents in a super vulnerable position. There's literally no perfect middle ground presented here.
Which brings us to a massive, glaring question. If both the developer and self-redevelopment models are so fraught with risk for a project of this size, why wasn't the joint venture option covered? Seriously, why was the most collaborative, balanced option entirely omitted from a professional feasibility report? Let's explore exactly what the society is missing out on.
Let's quickly define what a joint venture, or JV, actually means in this context. Looking at the financial models we reviewed, a JV is a formal corporate partnership where risk, reward, and decision-making are actively shared. The developer brings the project finance, the heavy construction machinery, and the delivery expertise. Meanwhile, the housing society, the actual landowners, sets the outcomes, keeps a seat at the table, and actively monitors the performance. It's a true partnership, not just blindly handing over your rights.
And this brilliantly illustrates the spectrum of existing real estate structures, proving these aren't just experimental pie-in-the-sky concepts. Right up at the top, you'll see the joint venture agreement and the SPV model. These are standard, heavily utilized industry structures specifically designed to balance risk. The fact that these are standard practice really proves that presenting Kalash Udyan with only a basic developer or self-redevelopment choice makes that report glaringly incomplete.
So how does a JV mechanically fix the nightmare scenarios we talked about earlier? Well, under a joint venture, the builder absorbs the heavy burden of construction costs, demolition, and all those regulatory approvals. The landowners, they get their upgraded flats with modern specs at zero direct cost to themselves. But unlike a standard developer handover, a JV creates a strong, long-term alignment. There's a shared upside, and the society never loses its voice. It perfectly bridges the gap between losing all control and doing all the heavy lifting yourself.
Now, tied really closely to modern joint ventures is another critical concept that was completely missing from the report: the Special Purpose Vehicle, or SPV. An SPV is a bankruptcy remote entity. Basically, it's a brand new, totally isolated company created for one single project. It operates safely away from the parent developer's other market risks. Think of it as an impenetrable financial shield.
You might be wondering, why should this matter to a resident of Kalash, Udyan? It's pretty simple, really. Let's say you hire a massive developer, and suddenly they go bankrupt because some other project they have across town completely fails. If your redevelopment is structured under an SPV, the operations and finances of your specific project are legally isolated. The builder's outside debts cannot drag your home down with them. Your specific redevelopment stays protected. That is a massive risk mitigation tool to just leave out of a report.
Section 2. Structuring a safe partnership.
So here's the crucial takeaway. A written agreement isn't just some formality. It is your core risk management document. If a society demands a JV, they need to follow these steps. First, define the exact revenue or area share ratios. Second, set strict escalation and penalty clauses for when milestones, like that massive 94 crore rent clock we talked about, are missed. Third, establish exactly how disputes get resolved without stalling construction entirely. And fourth, detail who actually handles the common areas post-handover. This document has to be heavily detailed to survive commercial realities.
You also need a tangible way to vet exactly who you're partnering with. Our sources provide this really excellent builder proposal comparison checklist. Listen, don't just look at their glossy brochures. Demand to see their verified capital sources to prove actual financial strength. Check their RERA compliance records, and insist on clearly defined, enforceable project deadlines with real, painful penalties. Doing this empowers the society to demand the exact transparency that the initial binary report completely ignored.
Plus, a successful JV doesn't just run on autopilot. It requires incredibly strict governance. You have to operate as a single team with dedicated cross-partner decision-making. Set up a rigid calendar of milestone-based site meetings where minutes are recorded and shared with everyone. Keep the entire process published and open to scrutiny, and ensure there are transparent triggers for any variations. This level of governance directly neutralizes those exact internal mistrust and transparency issues that the Atul Patel report warned about in the first place.
Section 3. Demanding the full picture. It's really time to start advocating for comprehensive strategies. I want to highlight this vital legal principle from our sources. The title or nomenclature of the instrument is not determinative. Okay, so what does that actually mean for you? It means a developer can call their contract whatever fancy marketing term they want, but the specific legal structuring inside the document, whether it utilizes an SPV, a true joint venture, or just a strict development agreement, is what truly dictates the safety of your home. You always have to look under the hood.
Which leaves us with this final critical thought. When you're presented with a feasibility report that literally dictates the future of hundreds of families, you have to ask, is your society getting the full picture or just the options the consultant prefers? A project the size of Kalash Udyan absolutely deserves every single financial and structural safeguard available in the industry, including joint ventures and SPVs. Don't settle for a forced binary choice when your family's future is on the line. Demand the full picture. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and we'll see you next time.